Hi everybody, my name is Lily. I am the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today we're going to be chatting all about Rebecca Ross. We're going back to the All About Authors series because I read Wild Reverence. I was going to say I finally read it, but honestly, it came out like pretty recently. I just want to mention the caveat I have not read Ruthless Vows, and I have not read, let me pull this up, the second one of the Queen's Rising, the Queen's Resistance. So I'm just going to be chatting about kind of this series as a whole. I hope that's okay. I feel like I can never tell too much about sequels. I do want to read those two sequels, so I will make sure in the future when I read them to make sure to reference this video, but also to make sure to tell you what I think about them, even if they don't make it into my favorites, just to kind of keep the thread. So subscribe if you're interested. I need to figure out how I can like plug my channel better. But anyway, subscribe if you're interested in those updates. I just wanted to chat about this one, and I've had this idea for a while because I've read Rebecca Ross before Rebecca Ross got super, super popular. So before Divine Rivals. And I feel like I only ever hear people talking about Divine Rivals when Rebecca has done so many fabulous books. I've been seeing the love now more for River Enchanted and A Fire Endless, which I really love to see, but I just feel like sometimes people should jump better into backlist books. I find it really fun when I discover an author who has a backlist catalog to jump into them, to see their growth as a writer, to see their growth in terms of ideas. And so I just hope that this video and the success of authors inspires you all to do that more. I think it's such a special journey to be able to jump into authors' backlists. I also just bought some books actually earlier this morning from author backlists, from authors that I love. So I just think take it as an opportunity when you discover an author like that to kind of go back and shower them with love for previous projects as well. So I just want to chat about all of the different kind of series and different kind of worlds that I really love and why I love them, basically. So, okay, I want to figure out, I can't sort this, of course, by year on my phone. This is only by popularity. So just for fun, let's start off with Sisters of Sword and Song, which I read before it came out, and I read it in around 2020 for, I think, a tour or something. So I was pretty on time for this one. And The Queen's Rising and The Queen's Resistance had already come out, or at least The Queen's Rising. To be fair, this isn't my favorite one of Rebecca Ross's books. In terms of YAs, I really did like The Queen's Rising, and I also really love Divine Rivals. But I don't think this one was my favorite. In general, what I did really love is that it's about sisters. So basically, it is a story about two sisters. After 8 years, their sisters are going to be reunited. One of them has been in the army, and she ends up coming back to their he ends up reuniting sooner than expected. And so the other sister knows that something is wrong. It turns out that the other sister, I don't remember who was like older. And no, I think the one who's on the run is older, the soldier. The soldier ends up coming back and finds out that she's on the run because she is being charged with murder. So the older sister, the soldier, she is punished severely. And so the younger sister offers to take part of her punishment to serve part of her sentence, to save her sister, and also to figure out what happened. So this book, let me go back to my review. It's a dual perspective book about sisters and secrecy, obviously. And I only obviously picked it up because sisters are my kryptonite. I don't know if you're a longtime follower of mine, you will know that sisters are my kryptonite. And it's certainly why I really have enjoyed some of Rebecca Ross's books in the past. It's about a world of magic, and there's singing, there's scribes, there's magical quests. Both of these sisters are also so different. I think what I ended up, or it's not that I didn't like this book, it's just I think that I had just read The Queen's Rising before I read this one, and I enjoyed that one so much. In general, I think Rebecca Ross is so good at delivering really unique world magic systems. And so I definitely believe that is the case for the Sisters of Sword and Song. My favorite element has to be the world. As I said, I just really love this idea of scribe magic, about song magic. I love living within worlds that have vastly different magic systems to what I'm used to, like, elemental magic or fighting magic, for example. I think one of the reasons why I didn't love this one as much as some of the other ones is that this is a standalone, and I just felt like this world, these characters, the plot would have been served more with a little bit of space. There is an art to standalones, and I think this one, I loved being in this world so much that I just wanted it to have a little bit more to it. But I definitely think if you really love unique magic and sisters, this is a must read. The next one that I want to talk about is Dreams Lie Beneath. This is another standalone from Rebecca Ross from 2021, so after Sisters of Sword and Song. And this one had a really fun dream magic. Like, I just really love Rebecca's unique concept. So basically this one, there's this curse in the land, and so every new moon, magic from this like sort of magical mountain brings the nightmares to life. That's kind of the major magic. And so there are magicians who kind of serve on these borders to protect people from these worst dreams / nightmares. She, the main character, is ready to kind of become one of these border magic controller people, but two magicians challenge her, and she is end up drawn into this conflict and drawn into a world which she didn't really know about before. She ends up trying to seek revenge and gets closer to one of the other magicians who challenged her, and has to reunite with her rival to fight the realm's curse. So I really enjoyed this one. I love the magic. Let's just say a blanket statement. I love Rebecca Ross's magic. This one is no different. I really enjoy this idea of bringing nightmares to life. Dream magic, dreams, nightmares. I feel like we could see that magic more, and I would really enjoy it because it is so fun. And I think this one, as opposed to Sisters in Sword and Song, is where to me I read it as a standalone and I was like, yes, this works as a standalone. While, yes, I would love to read more about side characters, that's always the case, I guess, with standalones. But this one felt really nicely wrapped up, and the pacing felt really good here. I think that this is Rebecca Ross's first or second standalone. The first one was Sisters of Sword and Song. And I feel like this one, the standalone pacing just is nailed down better than in the first one, which is why for this one, this was 4 stars for me, whereas the other one was not 4 stars for me. This one, I feel like does that pacing better, and you want to read more because you enjoy it, but it's not like you want to read more because you need some more to fill in holes or to fill in like spacing, I guess, if that makes any sense. But I really enjoyed this one. Also, the cover is super atmospheric. I remember getting a special edition of this and really enjoying how it looked. And let's go on to the Queen's Rising, which I think is the first book I ever read from Rebecca Ross. It published in 2018, and I read it. Oh my god, I read it as an arc. Yes, I read this as an arc. I was like, what? I read this as an arc. I don't know, is this Rebecca Ross's first book? I feel like it might have to be, because 2018, then there's The Queen's Rising, then I just saw Sisters of Sword and Song as 2020. So they think The Queen's Rising might have been Rebecca Ross's first book. And basically, it's this court of magicians and different magic types. It is just so fun. Basically, our main character is trying to master her specific craft and also to get a patron. They have like a patronage kind of magic here. And she has been, there's the 5 passions. There's art, music, drama, wit, and knowledge. So I just love this kind of sense of patronage, art patronage, and also magic associated with that. And so she is left without a patron, which is obviously very difficult for her. And so she is kind of then offered a patronage by a disgraced lord months later, and she kind of takes it because what else is she gonna do? And she realizes that there's a lot to his story and why he was disgraced and what his plots are for kind of overthrowing the kings, trying to figure out what's going on in the politics. And so there's also going to be war brewing because she realizes now that there's more to kind of the politics of the patronages, I guess, than she expected. And there's going to be a quest or a choice for a queen who will reclaim the crown. So, similarly with all of Rebecca Ross books, I love the world. I love this mix of patronage and arts and magic in that kind of sense. And I think what I really loved as well in The Queen's Rising is that we kind of have this opinion that the arts are kind of a solitary pursuit. You know, we have this stereotype, we have this image of the tortured artist who kind of just focuses on art alone and just focuses on ambition, being the greatest, being like the most talented. And I feel like often the artists need to kind of like expand their world to realize the implications of their art, patronage, about all of those different things. And The Queen's Rising does that. The Queen's Rising is kind of like, oh, I've tried so hard for this one goal, and this one goal didn't work out. But what would happen if there is so much more to this world that I really didn't really know about, that I really didn't get until now when I, am living without the thing that I wanted, basically. And that to me is such an interesting struggle, such an interesting concept. And so The Queen's Rising is about that. And it's the first in a duology series. So the second one is The Queen's Resistance, which I cannot tell you anything about because that has major spoilers for the first one. But as I said, I'm going to read The Queen's Resistance and I will report back to you. The next one is A River Enchanted. Actually, it's a Fire Endless and then A River Enchanted because often the first books in a series, I feel like, are more popular than the second one. Is that the case for this one? Yes. That's also the case with this one. On A River Enchanted was Rebecca Ross's adult debut. I really, really loved this one. It was so swoony. Basically, it's a story about magic and like spirit magic and music magic. So basically, we have these two characters. They're sort of rivals. The one character, Jack, he's left this island, which is where his family and where the community grew up. And he's left the island because he is a musician and he wants to kind of make it on his own. He finds the community kind of stifling, and he is happy to just leave. But then when young girls disappear from the island, he's drawn back home to kind of figure out what has happened. It kind of has this sort of vibe of spirits, of elemental spirits in the wind, and of them not being very nice. So that's kind of also a sub-niche interest of mine, and this definitely delivers. When he comes back, though, he finds out that his old rival, Adara, she's the heiress. They're kind of more like enemies than they are rivals in that sense. And she's trying to get him to use his bard magic to help her and find where these girls have gone, even though they're enemies. They reluctantly start working together and they discover so much more about the island and also their enemy status. It is so good. If you love enemies to lovers, if you also love music magic, and if you also love elemental spirits that are up to no good and also sort of very dangerous, this has to be for you. It also has such a strong current of mystery, which I really enjoyed. There's a ton of mystery about the island and specifically the past that is discussed. Obviously, also in A Fire Endless, which I cannot talk about because major spoilers. That's obviously kind of why I thought I could go ahead with this video without having read them. But I have read A Fire Endless, and I really loved the way... How do I describe this? I really love the way that Rebecca Ross takes these themes of love and sacrifice and continues to develop them, is what I will say. Anyway, this is Rebecca's only fantasy adult project, and I think it is so good. I love that now more people are getting into this series because I think it is so beautiful. I think that the music magic, I think that the enemies to lovers trope or the enemies to lovers relationship is done so well in this one. So I just feel like you have to read this one, and you have to, especially if you love those kinds of things. I really love music magic. Another one of my niche sub-interests, I guess. I really love music magic. Specifically, I just think it is so underutilized and also so gorgeous. I will try to find links to videos or posts in which I've talked about other music magic books in the past. And of course, the last book that is the most popular is Divine Rivals. I'm going to talk about Wild Reverence in a second, but Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, a little bit lower than Divine Rivals, which is now Rebecca's most famous, most popular book. Divine Rivals, let me just go back to the synopsis so I make sure that I don't spoil anything. But Divine Rivals is a book which has two rivals. They are like rival columnists, I feel like, working at a newspaper. And so her brother is on the front lines and forced to fight on behalf of the gods. This is another one where I feel like the world is going to get so much bigger in book 2. But her brother is forced to fight on the gods. She wants to win the columnist promotion at the Gazette. She has the rival. Basically, then they are kind of thrown onto the war front to kind of do this journalism, and they figure out what is journalism like from behind the typewriter and what's it like from in front of the typewriter. There's also magical typewriters. I love the magical, like the interesting, unique magic in this one. And I also love the Easter eggs for Divine Rivals in Wild Reverence. This one is super swoony. This is probably my highest rated Rebecca Ross book. I don't actually know, what did I rate A Fire Endless? No, The Fire Endless is also 5 stars. Just because of the way that Rebecca Ross develops the characters and develops the themes in that one. But Divine Rivals is my first 5-star YA from Rebecca Ross. I love newspaper columnists. I think it's super, super fun. Rebecca Ross just like hits my niche interest, wham, bam, bam, bam. And I love the idea of the magical typewriters and the connections that they have. I love letters in books. I love it so much. I love the epistolary kind of way that letters are written in books to each other and the story that can be told through letters. And I love writing, I love letter writing in books. It is going to be a future thing I'm going to discuss. I just love it so much. And Divine Rivals is one of the first that I'd read in a very, very long time. The amount of world and the cliffhanger, but the amount of world that is teased to you in Divine Rivals is so fabulous. The way that I know that it's going to get more fantastical in the sequel. And the swooning characters, I love the kind of like You've Got Mail vibes in the sense that they are rivals, but they are writing messages to these characters which they're not really sure about, and falling in love, and also kind of falling in love in real life too. It just is, the swoons of this one were so, so good, but also the way that it's grounded in the historical fiction and their coverage of war and what it does to them, what it does to the people that they love, and the trauma of that. Also gives it, there's super, super sweet love, super, super sweet swooning, but also these kinds of the ethics of journalism, I guess, and also the coverage and what it does to journalists and the war and how it is tearing apart their homes and their families and the things they love. They make it a really well-rounded, emotionally charged book. The emotional beats are there in terms of highs and lows, not just all swoons, not just all sort of historical fiction-ish world war coverage. So I really, really love Divine Rivals. I can see why it is Rebecca's most famous book. I just feel like if you love unique magic, which you probably do if you've read Rebecca Ross, you need to just read her other books, which are also fantastic and really, really interesting magical concepts. So Ruthless Vows, I haven't read. I'm very intrigued, as I've kind of said, about the way that the world will expand. The cliffhanger in Divine Rivals is honestly criminal. So very excited for Ruthless Vows. And now I want to talk about Wild Reverence, which is Rebecca's most recent release. It is a prequel, and as I've kind of talked about a little bit in the future or in the past or in the present, Wild Reverence is a book about the gods, or some of the gods, basically, from Divine Rivals. There are some nice fun Easter eggs for Divine Rivals and Wild Reverence. Basically, she's the main character, she's a goddess, she's also a messenger, she has messenger magic, and so gods can kill each other and gain powers. Power struggles in this world, specifically for gods, are extremely relevant. She she ends up magically kind of walking in the dreams of another human character whose name is Vincent, and they have this childhood relationship. They kind of share each other's dreams and nightmares, and then because of her world, and she's a god, he doesn't really realize that, she is drawn into the godly struggles. Some really bad stuff happens in the godly ones, and so she has to kind of take a break from the dreams. And then they're reunited later, and he's kind of feeling a little bit sad that he was, basically abandoned by her, but he doesn't really understand the god conflicts. And she is actually tasked with, as a messenger magic god, she's actually tasked with kind of delivering a message of kind of big dangers coming. And then she kind of decides, when she meets him again and when they reunite, I'm gonna have to help you. Like, I'm gonna try to help you. I'm gonna try to save you. Let's get fake married to save you from the upcoming problems. I don't want to describe the upcoming problems, but the upcoming problems. Let's get fake married. And then they do. So this one was super swoony. I loved it a lot. I loved how much there is kind of this god politics in it, which is more kind of present in the beginning than in the end. In the end, it's mostly she's in the human-ish world and kind of trying to figure out how they can move forward, how they can save. They're also like free falling in love, basically, because they definitely had feelings when they were children or when they were kind of teens. So this one is really swoony. As I mentioned in my August wrap-up, which I will link down below, this one felt swoonier than Divine Rivals, even though the swoon levels are basically very similar, because Divine Rivals has so much about war and how it really kind of impacts you. And also it feels more kind of like World War II-ish sense, so it feels more present. That kind of brings down the emotional swoons, or it tempers it a little bit, which I don't really feel like Divine Rivals does as much, mostly because they're gods, some of these characters. And secondly, the setting in the human setting in Wild Reverence, to me, feels way further back than the setting from Divine Rivals. I'm not really sure where I would place it historically. I'm not a big history person, but that kind of made it just feel a little bit more fantastical in that sense. And so the romance was able to shine through a little bit more, I guess. And also the characters in Divine Rivals, they're like actively betraying, warring, and everything like that. So it's more of their daily thing than it is in Divine Rivals. And so to me, the swoons just kind of takes you by storm in Wild Reverence. And it just is so cute. It's just so swoony, and it is just so character driven. I love the fake dating, fake marriage. I love that trope, and I also love them kind of figuring out if they could ever make it work. And mortal pairings are just, I love them so much. And so Wild Reverence was really great. It serves as a fantastic prequel to Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. And that brings me to the end of all of Rebecca Ross's books to date. Oh, you know what I should do? I should do also Roshani Chokshi, because I love Roshani's books. In the works. Okay, let me know what your favorite Rebecca Ross book is below, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have other authors that you want to see me do this All About Authors video series about, let me know also down below. I hope you have a really great rest of your reading day, week, month, and year, and I will see you in the future. Bye!